What's that?
You all set?
I'm all set.
Alright. It is 7 o'clock. We've got to call the planning commission meeting to order. We need to elect a chair to start first order of business.
You want to take roll call first?
Do we? Sure, let's do roll call.
You want me to go through them?
Commissioner Kennedy. Here. Commissioner Zabruski. Present. Commissioner Bennett.
Here.
Commissioner Becca.
Here.
Commissioner Lysick here. Trustee, or Village President Goodman and Trustee Howden Scheller absent. Now we'll carry on. We need to elect a chair.
My nomination.
Yeah.
I nominate Warren.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration and approval of minutes from January 25th, 2024.
Make a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes.
I have a brief comment on something that needs to change.
So you're gonna dispense them and then.
And dispense with the reading of them, so
Okay.
we know.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now, Dave.
All right.
Now, I just want to make a quick clarification on number 5, old business, when we discussed Ripplebrook East and the reduction of letter of credit. I came with a recommendation, which is true, of $40,446.96. But after discussion with the committee, we decided to reduce the letter of credit down to the 10% only, which was $26,305.79. And that we took to the board. So I will send an email clarifying that to Ben. If anyone wants to be copied on it, you can just let me know.
One other item on 6, Ben, it was a quit claim deed, it says quit claim deed, but halfway through the underlined sentence, paragraph.
Executed through a quit claim deed?
Yeah. Isn't that a quit claim, CK?
No.
And- No, it's quit
Quit,
claim.
okay.
That's proper term. Yep.
And in my engineer's report, we briefly discussed that a few letters had been sent to some properties within the village regarding I was a DNR letter.
Thank you.
I have the exact information that I can email you.
What was the date of that letter? Do you remember? And you can email it to me.
Yeah,
If anybody else is interested, you know, but myself or her know.
I think I have the dates here.
In case somebody requests what this was, if we have the date reference and it was from her, we can easily trace it and get a copy of it.
There were 2 letters sent from DNR to 2 different properties. One was December 8th, one was December 7th.
Okay, and that's in your commission report dated what?
That was my commission report dated January 25th.
Thank you.
Last meeting.
Thank you. I will. So on 5 old business, does anybody recall who motioned and who seconded the letter of credit adjustment? I had Hootie Shell motioned and I had Mecca seconded, and I wasn't confident that actually happened. I'll be honest. If nobody disputes it, we can keep it as such.
I'm okay with it.
Okay. That was my comment.
Top of page 2. Commissioner McAdams has spelled.
Thank you.
make a motion to approve all the minutes, with the changes that were noted.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, public comments. There are no public comments, we'll move along. Item 4, old business. A, letter of credit reduction update from village engineer for Lake Park Storage Condo site plan. Village engineer requests direction from the planning commission on the recommended letter of credit reduction to reflect completed items following site inspection on February 12th, 2024, and submitted drainage as-built plans dated February 15th, 2024.
Wonderful, okay, so you got a few things from me in front of you, but we're looking at the two packet ones first. This first one is our memo of acceptance for the as-built that we received, which were one of the punch items we had still remaining on this project. So I attached a copy in case anybody was curious.
What's the date of your memo?
My memo is the 20th. Absolutely. And the as-built are the 15th. So that's that for you, and which brings me to my letter of credit recommendation here. So we have a small list of items that we would like to see completed before fully releasing the letter of credit. Ben is going to go over later the landscaping plan that we have to review. So the tasks that are defined in that landscaping plan are yet to be completed. So we're withholding $10,500 for that, and then by the developer's agreement, an additional 20%, which brings our total letter of credit retainage to $12,000 or $12,600 even. Other items we have here on the list are the emergency driveway needs to be repaired from snowplow damage. The Knox box with the keys given to proper personnel, and all construction equipment has been removed from the site. Does anybody have any questions? Probably let these guys take a look real quick and then we can talk.
So these would be the final things that they need to take care of, or?
Yeah.
Jim and I, do you agree with these?
No,
Okay.
no. I sent out an email last week regarding this, to everybody. So, I mean, if I can just run through this real quick, I'll give you my reasoning for it and take it for what it is. But, so, first of all, you're retaining $12,600. In here it says that landscape plantings have been placed and 70% coverage of vegetation has been achieved. It's closer to 90%, but let's just say we take the 70%. In the letter of credit, she's withholding, out of $14,000, she's withholding $10,500 of the $14,000. Well, if there's 70% vegetation established, wouldn't you take 70% off of the letter of credit versus withholding basically 80% or 90% of that cost for 25% of vegetation, which again, I don't agree. I sent pictures as well. There's at least 90% coverage on that site.
The reason I recommended it like this is that the coverage, there has been some issues with the full coverage, which we know. But
What's that?
that the grass isn't fully grown in.
Well, so it's 90% grown in, and we put it in late October, so I would say 40% of the seed hasn't even germinated yet. There's gonna be residual seed coming up, come springtime, seed that stayed dormant that didn't even, not to mention we've got a little bit of snowplow damage, but again, that shouldn't be held from a letter of credit. That that's something to do with the development, you know, that we have to fix as a landscaper or the snowplow people. So, I mean, there's definitely more than 70% coverage on this, and we're assuming that, again, because we planted it in late fall, like, we haven't even given a chance for the grass to come up. So you guys are withholding money for me to go back, and then, once grass actually starts coming out of dormancy and starts growing, everything fills in, then you guys just withheld money for no reason.
Just as a quick clarification, the landscaping plan that you have sent in to Ben for review, that's not been completed yet, correct?
It was completed, yes.
All the landscaping.
All that was a change, we had already did the work, and I talked to Naomi about this, and she said, the plantings were over by the owner's lounge. That's a completely wooded lot facing 164. I talked to Naomi and I said, it's pointless to put plantings up against a wooded lot that nobody would see. So I said, can we take these plantings, shift them to the entrance of Lake Park by the retention pond, so it looks more aesthetically appealing when people grow in. We literally took that entire pocket of plantings, pulled it from there, put it there. That was completed. The as-built that I gave you was what was already done and completed. So 100% of the plants have been in.
Well, and we can address it later, that part of it later. I know some of this letter of credit addresses some of that, but are you saying, just for the record, that all of the plantings, the number of plantings that were called out on the original landscaping plan were all there? In other words, the amount of money for all the plantings is actually there.
Yes,
They were just simply moved, and they're all accounted for.
Correct.
The exact same plants.
yes. Yep.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yep. I mean, there may be a substitution for a 2.5-inch crab versus a 3-inch regarding, you know, what the nursery had available or something, but it was, we went with all the minimums of what we have agreed upon with the developer's agreement. So yeah, all the plantings have been in, all the shrubs and stuff are in. So,
And that is a separate item for the plan commission too, to say, were they okay with you moving them technically?
well, again, I had a discussion with Naomi about this. She said there should be no issue. I mean,
Yeah, I
again,
get what
you're
you're
just
saying.
splitting hairs if that's the case, but. The other thing, on here is the driveway, the emergency driveway. You guys were out there. When we say damage to it, there's some bumps and some windrows. Again, typical, that's gonna happen every year. So if we go in and fix it and it happens again next year, like, are you gonna withhold that 20% for that? I mean,
Well, and let me just ask, well, and I think the question is, was it built to spec, and is it built to acceptable standards today?
Right, and it's not that we would come back and say, oh, it was damaged by the plow again this year. It's that to grant acceptance for the state that it's in right now is not something that I'm comfortable with,
what's the state that it's in?
the bumpy state.
You have
Because-
ruts, I mean, I observed there's wheel ruts, or, yeah, like from a snowplow or something.
Sure.
That's when you repair, so.
But it's an emergency access, and for me to accept something that I'm concerned about a fire truck getting over is, you know, not something I'm gonna do.
All right, that's all ridiculous, but, Knox box is in. I texted Bill Bronk, he has the combination for it, he can give it to whoever needs to. I had stated that in my email last week, that the Knox box was in the mail. As soon as it came in, it would be installed, which it is. And then the last thing is, you guys have on here the construction equipment. There's an excavator. It is not on Lake Park development. It is on the Lake Park subdivision off lot.
And
Now, that has absolutely 100% nothing to do with Lake Park storage condos whatsoever. And like I've talked to you about, that machine is there because that berm is getting fixed in spring, and I need that machine there. It requires a semi to haul it out, which requires me to pay somebody $250, $350 to haul it out of there. If I haul that out of there, I can guarantee with 100% certainty, I will not touch that berm. It will stay the way it is. So, there's nothing stating that that machine can't be on there. And it's not, and second of all, you're withholding a letter of credit for a completely separate parcel.
I understand, just for quick clarification, there's no withholding for having the construction equipment on site, we're not.
But this is on your list of stuff that the money will not be released until that stuff is done, so it is part of it.
The acceptance letter would not be issued until that was done. There's no money attached to it, since this developer's agreement doesn't, we're not going to withhold any, like sometimes we always withhold at least 20% until the entire project is finished. That's not how this developer's agreement was set up, so it would just be the letter of acceptance. Neither location, neither property is zoned for storage, but if it's going to be used, it's a different story.
It's being used on that site, yes.
Yeah, so that's it for me. Does anyone have any questions regarding this entire conversation here, or thoughts?
So I guess the concern is that depending on the percentage of vegetation that we think has come in, what you're saying is that you have grass planted, but it just hasn't come in yet. That would,
It's all in. I mean, if you drive, I welcome any of you guys to drive down there tomorrow. Everything is completely green. There's a percentage of annual rye that comes up and then goes dormant, in fall. So yeah, there's gonna look like there's some bare spots, but there's new growth that's gonna come in behind some of that. And again, we're not talking areas the size of this room. We're talking a 2-foot area here, and a 3-foot area here, and a 2-foot area here. And if you go down there and actually look, there is a root system established. So, I mean, we worked our butts off to get that done in fall. And at the end of the day, I just wanna wrap this thing up and get it done.
I can respect that. But based on your inspection, you guys are saying you're just not seeing that yet. That the vegetation's not where we need it to be.
That's what I'm saying.
And I guess I have a question for the commission, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say that landscaping is not typically my realm of expertise, and I might defer to Ben for that, which is how I came up with this number.
Well, let me start off by saying I'm not a grass expert, but, and I just wanted to ask the commission, how has this been addressed in the past? Like when somebody presents, like something like this where, hey, it will come in, I planted it, I promise, is the commission been lenient on that, or what have you typically done with that?
Our biggest,
Can I show pictures? I'd be happy to show pictures. This was from October and November of last year. I mean, if anybody wants to see these, they're happy to look at them.
what we've dealt with in the past, I'm gonna use the Cajun site for example. The DNR will come out with a hula hoop and throw it on the ground. And if there's not X percentage of coverage within that hula hoop, wherever it lands, and she'll throw it around 20 times. One failure, you failed, you didn't pass. It's not up for debate with them when it comes to maintaining that coverage. If he's got 70% coverage now, I do question why we wanna withhold 75% of the landscaping money. We should withhold 30, in my opinion.
I think isn't it the leak code for, on the DNR for removal of your stormwater, or your, silt fencing, is you gotta get your second mowing in?
That's already been done.
It's already been done.
Yep. And I talked to Will Hine, and he's already sent me over the letter, because he said as far as he's done, which now again, this would be a question for Will Hine, because he's done all the site inspections. He sent me an email last year with the letter to have the stormwater management, or whatever you call it,
MS4.
to get rid of it from the DNR, because he goes, as far as I'm done here, everything looks good, all the vegetation's established. He sent me over that letter to fill out to send to the DNR. So if Will is good with it, I would think that the rest of the village would be good with it.
Well, Will doesn't do the site plan review like she does, and like what I do. He addresses stormwater management kind of situations for that.
But what I'm saying is, if Warren referred to the DNR, saying that, if they fail it, well, Will Hine essentially is acting as the for the DNR to inspect this site. And if Will's good with it, well then,
But that, just for the stormwater management, the MS4 permit, that allowed you to disturb soil and move soil around and all of that.
And silt fencing,
Right, and then you have to have X amount of grass or vegetation coverage in order to get that released.
right, so that's what I'm saying, if,
You had enough to get that released, I understand
yeah,
that.
right.
But is it enough to satisfy the developer's agreement? That's not my call. That's whoever is inspecting the property and, you know, we pay our engineers to do that.
That's what I brought you as my recommendation.
Seeing this is brought to us, wouldn't, and I guess we're going off people's words with it, shouldn't this be accompanied with like pictures or something like that to show the areas that are concerned?
I sent all the pictures last week in the email.
And was that like a timing issue that it should have been done sooner or something? I'm not sure how that works. so.
Well, and like, you know, like, Mr. Peterson pointed out, like, I mean, if they're planted in the fall, there's gonna be some that doesn't germinate, it's gonna take some time. If we're planted like, you know, in the summer or early in the spring, it would've had a chance to kinda get going and established, but, and I know he was
But
trying
we're
to
calling
keep
something
that.
out here, so that's my question, is because like dealing with the Casian site, it was like always accompanied with pictures, stuff that was concerning and stuff like that, so.
Will Hine submits every month that he's done an inspection. That's where I took those off of. Will Hine has all of the pictures from November and December of everything green. 100%. He's got 40 or 60 pictures in that email, and that was sent to me, and it was sent to the village for an inspection report. That's why I don't understand why nobody's looked at this. You know, no offense to you, but you just stood up here and said, well, I'm no grass expert. I am a grass expert. This is what I do for a living. I'm a landscaper. That's what I do for a living. So I'm telling you that the grass is established and we've had plenty of growth on that site and even more to come in spring.
So, and I think to kind of move this off center one way or the other, I just want to clarify. So staff is presenting, you know, what we observed in the field. You know, you got the applicant, and rightfully so, stating, well, I have pictures stating it was green, but when we do a field inspection in February, that's what we're going to see. So the question for the plan commission is, based on that, are you comfortable with maybe, I mean, I'm not going to speak, stop me if you want to make this motion, but one of the ideas I have is somebody can make a motion maybe to table this item to the next meeting and to obtain some pictures, if you think it warrants that, to make your decision easier, unless you decide, no, it seems like maybe we could wait until the grass is established and then give him his money back for the amount of the grass or whatever. I mean, that's really entirely up to the commission. It's not up to staff. We're making a recommendation. It's up to the commission to kind of decide how you want to handle this. I thought I'd clarify that a little bit.
I think it's very hard for anybody to judge grass growth in February. I mean, we've had an extraordinary February, but it ain't growing yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it might next week, who knows? With the residual seed that's down, and the fact that he did plant annual rye, that's gonna not show up right away. You know, that dies off over the winter, and you're gonna have some bare spots until that new seed germinates and fills in between the rest of them. You know, my other thing is the math doesn't work, in my opinion. If you call 70% coverage, you should give him 70% of his
Just
money
as-
back. And that's the way I look at it. Correct me where
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Just as a brief clarification, the requirement here that I've listed is that, you know, we would release this money once landscaping plantings have been placed and 7% coverage of vegetated area has been achieved, not that 70% is what I think the current number is.
And I know some of the question came up, and he pointed that out just now, is like the exact numbers of plantings, because the base cost of the plants, the cost of the plants, the fact that he just said that all of them were accounted for, they've actually been shifted, but that's another item, is the plan commission okay with that? But the issue is, it sounds like all the plantings are in. I mean, for me to verify them in February, I mean, some of them are perennials too, they're gonna be like, I can't see them, so it's kinda hard to do that. But if he's saying on the plan, that's where they are, it's kinda hard for me to verify that, you know, technically.
You said Naomi approved to move those to another spot?
Yeah, I called her up, had a conversation before we did it, and she goes, there should be no issue at all, just change the plan to what it is, as
Like
as
where
built.
they actually are.
Yeah, and you did, you
And I
supplied the
did,
plan, yeah.
yep, so, again, I'm just going off of what she had told me, hopefully that wasn't the case, but,
Yeah, and this is just a little bit out of the ordinary since we're getting to kind of post actually planting, so that's maybe part of the confusion for this group
I
here.
think that's where part of the 70% is coming from, then, if I'm not mistaken, is that it's not just the coverage, it's the plantings that are being moved has to be taken care of too, as part of that, right, or no?
Yeah, that's the way what I was thinking.
She's not, I think, she's not saying he has to have, but it's a combination of things. The landscape plantings have been placed, which there's a plan in place to move them.
no,
They're
it's done,
It's done.
100%.
And do we have any correspondence from Naomi that it was checked, or is it kind of one of the things where it happened towards the very end, just before the meeting, or?
I know we looked at it in September, Naomi and I physically walked it, is that about the time, I think? I remember it's warmer.
Correct, yeah,
It was
yeah.
green, there were still some bare spots of grass, to be honest, at that time.
Well, yeah, that was September, but we had
Right.
October, November growing season,
Yeah.
beautiful
so-
weather. Like I said, I got pictures on my phone, I'm happy to show anybody.
And that's up to the plan commission, but I mean, I'm just stating that September, I think, I remember seeing some of the plantings removed kind of what's that, west? No,
Yep.
east.
To the east,
East, yeah,
from the east from the west
west
to
to
the
the
east.
east, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't feel comfortable recommending a complete acceptance for something that has not even been approved by planning commission yet. Maybe that's where we're getting hooked here.
It's a technicality, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, and again, the order of events is we're gonna talk about letter of credit, and then one of the other later items is the plantings being moved.
Yeah.
So
Move stuff
I guess here's the only issue that I have is, so if we say we approve it, and then we reduce the letter of credit, right? And then April has come around and the sun and more warmth and the days are longer, and then there's still quite a bit of bare spots because for whatever reason it didn't come in, then what recourse do we have to have them bring it up to compliance if we've already approved it? Zero. And the only reason why I say that, and I haven't used you as a landscaper, but I've had like 3 guys come into my place and try to help me get grass growing, and the stuff doesn't want to grow. And it's been a pain in the butt. So I guess I understand what you're saying too, that like the dollar amount, right? Like how do we determine, like if we can determine where we're at, then we should adjust the percentage of what he gets back. But I think we need to verify it, you know what I mean? I mean,
To me,
how do you guys, as a group, we should say, do we feel like if we can look at the photos he has, that we can make a determination off of that? Or do we want to maybe go a little bit, maybe more to protocol and say we need to maybe just table it and get a really good set of photos that are reviewed by the engineer? And they come back and say, you know what, we went out, we looked at it, it's 100%. We feel it's not 100% of whatever, but 100% agreement that we should do this. And you guys should feel confident on reducing the letter of credit. And then the village we have that accountability. Because like I said, I'm not saying if it doesn't come in, it's not by your own, you're not doing it on purpose, right?
no,
And
I
then-
get that.
You know what I mean? If it doesn't come in and you're like, dang it didn't come in, then we have no recourse to say, Jamie, we still need you to fix that. And then we fight again.
But I think the problem is you guys are severely over exaggerating. Like, I can tell you right now, I know where you live, the grass that's there is as good as the grass that's at your house. I mean, truly, like, if you look at these pictures.
Right. I
So,
get it.
it's my issue isn't with you guys withholding the money. My issue is me having to come back here month after month. These guys looking at it after month, this project has been completed, yet every single month I get $1,000 worth of staffing bills from the village of Big Bend, and it just keeps dragging out and just eating me alive with like, again, now Schrober looked this over, so I get a $300 bill for him to take 3 minutes to maybe say he looked at it. Then the engineer looks it over again, and the planner looks it over again, and I get a $350 bill here, and a $400 bill here, and a $500 bill here, and now if you're saying, we're not gonna do this until spring and the grass is growing, now we're gonna review this again next month, then we're gonna review it again in April, then we're gonna finally get out there and get another inspection, which is now another site inspection, so now double all those fines, when this project really has been completed in November.
You have everything that you need to plan in other than some repairs.
Every single plant is in and established, and nothing has died to this point. And again, in my opinion, there's at least 90% coverage of grass.
I can understand your argument of the 75%. I don't think I could see dropping it down to 30%. I don't think that's,
To me, this would fall under the 20% contingency for the letter of credit. These are what I would call warranty issues of stuff that's been completed. So that's where your 20% contingency holdback is. I would be fair with that. I could see that. But to hold back, like I said, all of this extra money, I just think it's ridiculous. So,
I don't know what grass seed sells for these days.
that's I'm looking at the numbers here. Is,
about
you know,
55 cents a pound.
Now keep in mind, usually the estimate includes, contractor installation, even though grass seed is grass seed and he's a contractor, but technically you have to consider.
No, right, I'm saying if,
Right.
if he says he wants to just walk away and we gotta pay to have someone come in and seed it and to fix the driveway, you're looking at several $1,000s.
Right, that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is if we held back 4,000 and released the rest, I can see that as being a fair amount to hold back. That way it gives a chance if you have perennials that don't come up, to say, hey, fix that.
I mean, I trust the landscaping is gonna be immaculate there. It's what he does for a living. He's not gonna give himself a black eye.
I have 42 owners in there looking at me on a day-to-day basis.
Right, I
Trust me, I
understand.
get plenty of flack.
I mean, would you accept that we reduce that to 4,000?
I'd be fine with that.
I mean, I would make the motion then.
$4,000 amount be as a percentage roughly.
It would be about 30%. We would hold about 30%.
So is that $4,000 for the
That would be the retained amount.
retained amount?
So it'd be the 4,000 plus the 2,100, warranty, if that's what's on the bottom of the contingency.
Let me do some spreadsheet adjustment here.
So what's gonna consist then to prove that, like, do we have to come out and do another full site inspection and wait until, because again, let's be clear, like, grass doesn't typically germinate. Grass germinates at 52 degrees and it needs 30 days to do so. So if it starts getting nice, right, exactly. So now we have all of March, all of April, all of May.
So then I can come back whenever, if we want to give it till May, whenever. I come back, I look at the ground, I can take pictures for Ben if we only want one of us to be there to ensure that the landscaping, the plants are what we thought they should be. And then I write acceptance, release all retainage, the end.
But I think too, part of the timing is that the plantings went in late, correct? You said the plantings went in.
September.
Right,
Right, that's kind of driving a little bit too of the timing. Obviously, we're kind of waiting through winter and, in a perfect world, they would have, you would have had them in, we would be talking about this right in the springtime.
But
So
that's the
I-
weird thing is because Naomi did a site inspection in November and with, I think, Mike Timmers, and she said everything looked great. Like, she walked the whole property, looked at all the plantings, like, this has already been done once. That's what really irritates me about this is like, Naomi's gone now, she's still here, but she's gone, you're taking over, she's already done this, now I hate to keep bringing back money, but again, now I'm paying people to do this again. So,
I understand,
So this, the way I look at it is if we hold 4,000 for the landscaping and then the other 800 for the 20%.
mhm.
So it'd be 4,800 would be the retain amount,
What would be the $800 for?
The
20%.
20%.
for 20%.
20% of 4,000. Yeah,
And then you would be able to release that in May.
yeah, whenever I get the word, I can.
I mean, I think for $5,000, we could get that grass planted, plus, you have issues with.
Low traffic on for a driveway if you need it.
It literally, I can do it in 5 minutes with a
I know you
skid steer.
can.
And then I guess I would request that if you reach out to Bridget or me, either one, it's on you to reach out to us.
Okay,
We're not automatically just.
I'm going
Put on
to,
your calendar.
as of next
Sorry.
week, I'm gonna send you pictures of the driveway fixed.
Sure.
And I will send you pictures of the Knox box installed. As I said, Bronc already has the combination. So that checked 2 of the 4 things off the list.
Yeah, I just hadn't heard, so I kept them on that list. I figured
Yep.
you would get them done, but
Okay,
gotta put them on my list, so.
fair enough.
So receive word they're done.
I'll make the motion then to change the letter of credit reduction amount to 4,000 for the landscaping, plus the $800 for the 20%, for a total retaining to be 4,800.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under new business.
Oh, I got a question here before we go any further. Did we just do number A and number 4A and number 5B together?
Yeah, let's do that.
I mean, did we just do that?
No.
No, we gotta address that officially, I think. Sorry, Dan. Where did I put that? Remove the 5B, review and discussion on eliminating landscaping on previously approved landscaping area on Lake Park condominium property as part of the approved site plan. The owner, Mr. James Peterson, has provided a revised landscaping plan set dated January 29th, 2024, which presents the relocation of planting areas on the west end of the development and the southeast corner of the development to the main eastern entrance. Planning Commission will review and make a decision on the proposed revisions from the original approved plan dated April 14th, 2021.
All right, well, I'll start off. So you have the applicant here, of course, Mr. Peterson, and essentially, he gave you a little bit of the background on some of this, that there was plantings that were moved. I understand he spoke with Naomi, the village engineer, on this, and because the landscaping plan was approved by the Plan Commission, Plan Commission was expecting the plans to be followed, and so when there's a change where literally plants are no longer on the west side, as they were previously proposed, again, this would be kind of by the gate, and so the owner decided it probably would be better to be on the main entrance, which is on the east side, and so that's where all the plantings were moved to. And in my staff report, I gave you a quick snapshot of kind of the sections on the plans that kind of show the 2021 plan as it was approved and the 2024 plan. The 2021 plan shows, again, groupings of plantings kind of in front of what we're calling buildings 22 and 23, also kind of in front of the owner's lounge or by the gate. And all of those basically were moved to the east side.
Right.
And again, it's one of those things where, because there's a dollar amount associated with all of those plantings, the number of plantings, as I just heard from the owner, is the exact same. They're just accounted for at a different location. And so I recommended that he actually put those on a plan to submit so that it'd be on the official record that that's the plan people are gonna reference in the future, not the 2021 plan, which would be completely wrong. So in other words, it should be pretty clear in my report. That's essentially what my report states. And then also, should you decide to approve the amended landscaping plan, I recommend that you approve the landscaping plan dated January 29, 2024, which I believe you have a kind of a 8.5 by 11 copy of. I hope you got that. Or at least you saw it via email. And the surety being withheld for the landscaping shall be to an amount recommended by the village engineer, but we kind of discussed that. And so maybe just reiterate that as a condition for this separate action. And then final condition would be all costs incurred to the village basically for having us verify it's in place, whether it's just her or just me one time, we can do that, you know, but he'd be expected just to, you know, pay that as part of his original application to the village. So the village doesn't have to pay for that fee. And one other item I just want to mention, it's more for formality, but section 16.23 subsection F talks about the reason for landscaping is to provide screening to adjacent properties. It states that every development shall provide for sufficient screening to shield adjacent properties from any adverse external effects of the development or to shield the development from negative impacts of adjacent uses, streets, etc. So when you're thinking of landscaping and location, do you think it fulfills that purpose where it was relocated to or not? I mean, just to treat everybody the same, this is the standard that we apply to everybody. So that's why it technically has to be brought forward again and reviewed whenever landscaping is shifted from one side to another.
And that, if I recall, there's, where that gate is, there's already trees there, right, on the
Correct.
164 site?
Yeah, it's a whole like 1 acre wooded lot
Right.
next to the AT&T
Yeah.
building. Correct.
Does anybody have any
I was
further
just saying,
questions?
does anyone have any issues with what was recommended by the? I guess I'd make a motion to approve the plan from January 29, 2024, following the recommendations from the planner.
So the three conditions?
Yes.
Got a motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Good night. And moving along, item 5A. Daniel M. and Kenny J. Wilcox have put forth a letter of request for consideration by the Village of Big Bend to be able to purchase all or a portion of Village of Big Bend property. The property with tax key number BBV 205-899-5003 is 3.58 acres, zoned as R1 Single Family Residential, and is located between I-43 and properties fronting onto Vernon Hills Road. Staff is seeking a recommendation to forward to the Village of Big Bend Board for further consideration of this request.
So, I just gave you a memo, I don't think I sent that to you yet, but basically everything he just said. So yeah, the zoning on the property is actually an R1 residential district. The interesting thing with this property, if you kind of look at the zoning map that I attached, it's actually landlocked completely, except for the right-of-way of I-43. There's some back history here that I know Mr. Wilcox was going to present a little bit of that to help you understand. And I had a phone call with him, and it was interesting to learn about how this came to be. You know, with the history of the interstate coming through and some drainage situations from south to north. So with that being said, the property is surrounded by the Village of Vernon. So the Village of Big Bend does, you know, have this property. So I know it sounds like maybe the board wanted some, kind of a formal recommendation from the plan commission purely from a land use perspective. Does it make sense to potentially, if he is willing to pay the village for a price of some sort, and if the village can agree to a price with him, does it make sense for the village to essentially provide him with some usage of the parcel? He wouldn't be able to build a residence on it due to the water, but, because it's not really feasible based on the circumstances. But with that being said, we're not looking for, I did not put a formal recommendation of action because I'm gonna leave that up to the plan commission. In other words, what are some of the issues you think might come up with something like this that the board may want to know about? And the one thing I will mention is the property does front onto, is it 5 different properties? 1,
Yep.
2, 3, 4, 5,
Including mine.
including his. So the questions kind of come up if an adjoining property owner were want to have the land directly behind them, which would go, north-south property line fashion, would that make sense? And at this point, I didn't receive any feedback, I guess, from Public Works on this, or anybody else at village staff, I guess, other than we're waiting to hear back a little bit from the person requesting it, maybe what his plans ultimately are for the property. And do you have any other questions of staff on my report, or would you like to hear from the applicant?
Just tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, well, like Ben said, my name's Dan Wilcox. I live at S75W23680 Vernon Hills Drive. It is in Village of Vernon. I also own this second lot here that abuts the freeway and is adjoined to my main residence. My wife's a school teacher for Mukwonago School District, Parkview Middle School. My youngest daughter is a junior in high school in Mukwonago. I'm a retired police detective with 30 years. We've been living in this house since 2017 we bought it, and I've been retired for 2 years. A little bit of history on this property is, this is in 1950. This is before the freeway went through. That was not a wetland. There were no drainage issues. You notice the old growth trees on the property line here. This is, again, my property and my residential property. There's a better close-up view. I'm going to talk about these trees here, but these are old growth trees. This is a aerial photograph from 1950. By 1970, they put the freeway through. Immediately, there's drainage issues. There's a pond here, there's a pond here. So when they put the freeway in, this is in 1970, the exit ramp, the freeway ended right here, and the exit ramp, everybody was getting off on National Avenue. They didn't put the rest of the freeway through till later on in the 70s. None of this was all developed. So they dug drain tiles in. There's all drain tiles on the north side of the freeway. There's an underground pipe that runs along this old freeway ramp that isn't there anymore. And all the water drains to the west towards Evergreen Drive. There's just a small pond that was there at that point. In about 2010, roadway crews doing maintenance on the north side of I-94 broke the drain tiles and drainage pipes. And there was record rain in 2010 and 2011. This all flooded. So the little pond that used to be right here, so my backyard was flooded all the way up to the swimming pool and into my basement, and every one of these people was flooded out. Now, National Avenue is up, obviously up on a hill. This is also a hill going up this way, so this is the downside of Vernon, or Vernon Hills Drive there. So, these two pieces of property were, before the freeway went through, they were owned by these two farms on the north side of the freeway. So by 2012, this is the high water mark that the DNR redelineated. The original DNR delineation is this one laid out here that was designated wetland. Then they did a second delineation, and then this is now the 2015 third delineation that took all of these four neighbors' backyards almost all the way up to their houses. So this is in 2012, Brickman or Vernon Associates Partnership, whatever, that owns all the land on this north side over here, they owned, he owned this piece of property, and it was a Vernon property in 2012. And so at its high water mark, when the water was up that high, that's when Brickman gave that piece of property to Big Ben. I think it's kind of coincidental that you have this huge flooding, and then he wants to get rid of the property that the drainage pipes are on here. I know this neighbor here was filing some claims and stuff. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but for some reason Brickman got rid of the property and gave it to Big Ben.
Big Ben accepted it, just like it is.
What's that?
Big Ben accepted it, just like it is with the
Yeah.
drainage pipe damaged.
So this is my residential backyard. This is when we bought it in 2017. You can see all the flood damage that happened to it, and the water was all the way back up to the pool here. But you notice that all of this nice forest, or hundreds of trees that were in there, are now just standing dead trees. And we started cleaning them up in 2017. There's an aerial shot. You can see all the dead standing trees. Now this is actually on, this is that Village of Big Ben. This is that area. So this is my second lot. This is my primary lot. You can see all the flood damage, but you can see all these trees that are dead. Back in 2018, that's when I bought that second piece of property, and that was private sale. So this piece of property used to be attached to this property, and it was Ron Zimmerman owned it. That was the Zimmerman farm back in the day. And when that got cut off and all this property was disposed of, that kind of got forgotten about. So when I moved in, I got a hold of the owner of both of these properties when I was cleaning up the backyard, because all these trees were now falling over into my yard. And he was retired, he's living in Florida, and I asked him for permission to cut down some of the trees, and he says, why don't I just sell you the lot? And I bought it in 2018 for $2,500, and it's, at the time it was assessed at $800 in value, and now it's up to $1,000. So all the dead trees you saw in that picture is right here, and this is the Big Ben lot. So I called the Village of Big Ben, and I talked to Eric, and he said they were pretty much unlikely to come out and cut these trees down for me that are just dead standing trees and really do anything about it. So he gave me permission. You can see him here. So this is my backyard, and this is what I'm looking at. Periodically these would fall down, fall into my backyard, and I'd have to clean them up. There's a big limb that's laying right here. You can see how these are just cracking off. Some of them fall this way, most of them are falling into my yard. So when I talked to Eric Peterson, that was right around the pandemic, COVID time. He gave me permission to just, hey, take care of those and maintain the property lines in there, and that's what I've done. So in 2019, DOT and Waukesha County, they fixed the drain tiles on the north side of the freeway, and literally overnight, all of that water that was up this high drained 3 feet in 2 days. It just went down. So it was clearly, the problem was this, their drainage system that was set up. And that's when I went in. So I have 850 feet of frontage here on this piece of property. And this is where all those dead trees were that I've since cleaned up. According to, I hauled a ton of garbage out of there. I mean, refrigerators, I probably pulled 30 tractor tires and car tires out, concrete, building waste, just unbelievable amount of junk. The neighbors around me tell me that people were using that as a garbage dump because it was unimproved for so long. They didn't build these last 4 houses, like mine was built in 2001, I think this is 2004, 6, and then 2005 and 6, so these were the last 4 lots that they put in, and there's just all garbage in there, so I'm still cleaning up the stuff that's back there. I know I talked to Warren a couple of times back in 21 and 22 about buying the lot. Pretty much I've been trying to make offer to purchase and buy the lot since 2018. And I know there's just a lot of stuff going on in Big Bend, and this is like small potatoes, but I put a lot of work into maintaining that property over the years. And what I'm interested in is, and I don't know if it's possible to divide this off, but just the property that's contiguous with my property lines. So this area that's blacked out here, I don't know if Big Bend can parcel that off or split it, or like Ben had mentioned, that, you know, all of these other neighbors here can have an opportunity to buy the property behind them. My primary concern is just the property that touches my property lines. But if they're gonna, I don't know if you guys decide that or not, if you're gonna just sell the whole parcel but I just don't wanna get into, I wanna maintain good relationships with my neighbors. And, you know, I don't wanna, hey, I'm gonna buy all the property behind you guys' house, and now they gotta, because I wouldn't want it behind my house. I mean, my house is set really far back compared to these other houses. So if this guy wanted to buy this whole piece of property, and now I got him standing in my backyard while my wife and daughter are in the pool, I wouldn't like that. So, you know, I don't want to create a situation with these neighbors where, you know, they don't want me, not that I would be, but I'm just saying that, you know, you're buying property behind someone's house, it kind of makes them uncomfortable. I don't want to create a situation where I gotta live with these people and now they're, you know, upset with me for buying the property behind them. So I don't know how, if that property can be like subdivided into 2 sections or 5 sections, or I don't know the mechanics of it. Or if you just sell the whole parcel to me, and I'll work it out personally with my neighbors, with either, if they want to hire have a survey done and have their you know, lot points figured out, that I would just do private sales with them, kind of like how I bought this private sale. So you guys just sell me this whole piece, and then I work it out with my neighbors. I think would be a lot easier way than, you know, you going to each neighbor and saying, all right, you want this and you want this, and then this guy here with his, you know, 80 feet of frontage. He said, I don't think he's gonna even wanna buy it, if any of them are interested in buying it. So, I have no problem buying the whole thing, but I think these people might be interested in the property that's directly behind them, but they guarantee you they don't want this. And I'm the same way. I want this property, but I'm not interested in the little corner property behind everybody else.
What is your ultimate plan with the property?
So, I worked with the Wildlife in Need Center and the DNR and Wisconsin Waterfowl Association. I've cleaned this all up here, this pond, and I maintain it as a refuge for migratory birds. You can go out there now and see how many Canada geese and ducks and sandhill cranes are already coming back. And that's what I want to do with this piece right here, is just maintain it in its, current condition as a wetland, and just keep it as a bird sanctuary. I spent 8 years in Marine Corps, 30 years in law enforcement. I'm done shooting, I'm done hunting. I like to take care of the birds. I'm retired now, so, I feed them, I take care of them. I worked last year with the Wildlife in Need Center. We had a crane with a broken leg that I worked with a vet out of Brookfield, and we were able to rehab that bird right in our back wetland back there. So that's what I intend to do with the property, and if it's parcel off, this is all designated wetland. I can't do anything with it, I can't build on it. So, like I said, this is 3.2 acres here, I paid $2,500 for it. It's assessed at $1,000. This whole parcel here is 3.5 acres. So what I'm interested in is probably about 2 acres, and it's all wetland. So,
Right. Just thinking out loud here, I think it's going to be easiest for the village to address that as one property, and for you to do a quick claim deed on whatever parcels you want to give away or sell or whatever you want to do with them. For us to subdivide that out would be.
I get along with my neighbors good.
Right, I'm sure.
I got no interest in boxing any of them out or anything. I would rather just buy it as a whole parcel, and then, I think it's easier for Big Bend to just sell it that way.
I mean, being zoned R1 already, there's no zoning changes required or anything like that. It's still in the residential.
Right, and the interesting thing is, to the south of it, that's all Village of Vernon, so that's
Right.
really interesting. Like, it's all surrounded by Village of Vernon.
Mhm.
East, south.
Well, it originally was Village of Vernon. When Brickman owned it, it was Village of Vernon. When he gave it to Big Bend, then it had a Big Bend tax number.
I got this bridge
Sometimes
for
you gotta say
sale.
no to
Do you
a
want
free
it? It floods only every, how many years?
Sorry for
I
that.
don't know, what does the rest of the commission think on this? My personal take is, I think the village should sell it to them. We have no feasible means of maintaining or accessing that property without going through his.
Right, and the owners acted in good faith and
Right.
maintaining it and not incurring more costs to the village to come in and cut trees. And I'm in agreement with you. I think
Same
we
here.
should
I
sell
think they
it.
did the best thing for the village and for Mr. Wilcox.
Did you get an assessment? Did you have an appraiser come out and look at it, or just going off a tax assessment?
Well, I told, when I met with the board, I said, I already hired an attorney, I'm already paying Ben's bill, I'm gonna pay for him, hopefully he doesn't take me to cleaners, but,
I'm cheaper than an attorney.
whatever costs are associated with selling that, I'll get an appraisal done, you guys pick the board can pick the appraiser, I don't have a pocket appraiser. And then I'll pay fair market value for it.
Does the village, because the village owns the property currently, We don't have any kind of estimated tax assessment we would place on 3 acres of wetlands, do we?
And that's where the appraisal comes in. The appraisal will take into consideration the current use of the land, the conditions, which would include wetland conditions,
Yeah.
try to find comparable properties. And that's sometimes a challenge with something like this. So what is the market value
Yeah.
of something like this? That's why an appraiser should be contracted, in my opinion, and an appraiser would assist with that.
So the question, I guess I have a question, is that you subdivide that out, that's still gonna have a Big Bend tax, or you purchased it, it's still gonna have a Big Bend tax key.
So
And
he
if
would,
parcels that out.
he'd
you're
come
gonna-
back here for CSM approval to say, a CSM certified survey map to say, here's how I want to subdivide it, what do you guys say? And as a reminder, you know, we sold it to you. and- So,
But that could end up being 5 little tiny Big Bend parcels at some point in the
Potentially.
future, okay.
potentially.
I
Now,
don't-
here's the interesting thing with this property though too, because it's an R1 property, technically, the lot size minimums, you know, here's the, you know, the loophole a little bit, is that the R1 standards to subdivide it, it's kind of an interesting animal, because we all know that there's not gonna be a house on this lot. And by the book, you can't further subdivide smaller than the zoning district allows for, technically. But what we could do is maybe the village, well, it's not in my recommendation, but my thought is you could, in theory, allow a rezoning to occur to an ag district to remove the lot minimum standards, then he comes in with the CSM at the same time, essentially, and kind of parcel it off, so everything's legally done properly. But it would require just a public notice that, yep, this land's gonna be rezoned by the new owner, and the CSM is being proposed, and I don't know if have you contacted the adjacent owners? You haven't, right?
Yeah,
You have?
yeah, the only people that might possibly be interested in it. Well, one thing I wanted to point out, on this property, I remember, this is where the drainage pipes go, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but all of this water that settles down in here, it actually drains to the north underneath the freeway. So, I mean, this isn't like a retention area. It drains through and then drains down towards Evergreen. So whoever owns this land has to maintain, you know, a clear flow of water to those drainage pipes. And I've been there since 2017, I haven't seen a single person on that land. And I talked to my neighbors, there hasn't been anybody on that land since 2012 when Brickman transferred it to Big Bend, but I mean, nobody is maintaining that land. It's just, obviously I took care of all the trees, I picked up all the garbage, all the tires, refrigerators, air conditioners, construction waste. But the big thing is keeping the approach, not the pipes themselves. The pipes, drainage pipes themselves are back here. It's on the frontage of the freeway. But keeping this approach clean, you know, by state statute has to be done. I have a loader, you know, a tractor, and obviously whoever owns that property, it's their responsibility to do that. And I knowingly going into it that, you know, that's gonna be my responsibility. As far as my other neighbors, I know Vic really good here, my direct neighbor. He doesn't even do anything in his backyard, it's all wooded. This goes up a hill this way. He's got no interest in this property, and I know these two don't. The only one neighbor would be this one here, and I have a good relationship with him. That's why I said I'll go talk to Al and Robin, and if they're interested in, I mean, if they want the land, I'll just subdivide it off and give it to them, or however they want to, you know, divide it up. I'm only interested in the land that's adjacent to my property lines. So, but if you guys are saying you have to sell it as one lot, you know, I would. I have the most to lose on that. These neighbors are uphill. That's why when you look at the wetland, it just goes right to here, because they're 20 feet higher up the hill than I am. So they don't really, if this guy buys all of this property, he doesn't care, because that water is never gonna get high enough to touch his backyard or his house, it'll flood the freeway before that happens. But I stand as the gatekeeper right here. When this floods, I'm the first property to flood, and then all my other neighbors down this way. So, you know, I have an interest in maintaining that property. This is my self-interest. I don't like having that much water in my backyard, and whereas the other neighbors, I have a lot more interest in the property just because it's in my direct backyard, and I'm the first guy that's affected if there's any flooding that happens. Whereas these other neighbors up the hill really have nothing to worry about. They're 30 feet up in the air.
So I think we're gonna take some action on this.
I believe the village board had desired a recommendation.
Right.
Recommend something to them to take forward for consideration and
I
discuss
would-
further.
Like to put a motion out to recommend this to both Public Works and the village board for review and approval. I have no issues from the planning commission side to sell the property,
I will second that.
but I would recommend selling it as an entire property and letting Mr. Wilcox do what he wants to it, you know.
Do we want to add something in there about just a recommendation for appraisal, or do we recommend that?
We just had the whole village appraisal last year, and I just looked to see what the appraisal was on that property, and it's still under review.
Okay.
So, if, I don't know if you have time, Ben, if you can call the appraiser and just kind of poke them and say, we're interested in the number on that property now.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
But like I said, I'm willing to pay all costs associated with, you know, if you want an appraisal done or whatever, but then in turn, I would like to, from that, I have the opportunity to buy the parcel then, instead of saying, okay, well, you paid all this money, but now we're gonna let all your neighbors buy it, you know, get a kick at the cat. It's like,
Right, no,
So this is the recommending body that's saying they're recommending that happen.
right.
And to be clear, you're recommending that it be sold to Mr. Wilcox.
As one,
Yes,
as
one
one
property.
property.
thank you, I appreciate that.
Because he has written a letter.
Public hearing or anything like that, is there?
Well, that's up to the village board and how they want to address this. The League of Municipality, the organization that handles, municipal matters for the state of Wisconsin, when I researched this, it doesn't appear that there's no local village ordinance that says for the disposal of public lands that has to be done. It's not in there. It's not in the local ordinance, and if it's not in the local ordinance, the state guidance is basically, it's whatever the village board deems appropriate. So if the board is supportive of this, not on board with it, that they can follow what they see as fit. And so you have a property owner that's adjacent that's requesting just that, to purchase the whole land. So that's why this request is here too. I mean, so it's kind of a gauge. Are you comfortable with that? Do you see any pitfalls to that? But it sounds like it might be easier, make sense, have that individual subdivide it and try to parcel it off and sell it. Or keep it.
Could he ever combine it and turn it into like a Vernon property?
No,
No, it would stay where Big Ben.
no, because of the hierarchy with village and village.
Yep.
If you were a town and we were a village,
Yeah, you
we
could
could
have-
buy
And
it as a
that's a
town.
good question, because Vernon used to be a town.
Right.
And that could be the case well, it could have been the opposite, because
Right.
now Vernon is now a village, they're on an equal playing field, so you can't swap lands unless by agreement, but.
Very good.
Doesn't matter what I pay my property tax to, I mean, this 3.5 acres that I own right here, it's assessed at $1,000, I paid like $8. I mean, this isn't a big moneymaker, and that's why I didn't really push the issue, because it's not a big moneymaker for Big Bend. So, and then we have so much other stuff going on with COVID and.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but we do have a motion on the floor.
And a second from Zembrowski to.
Yes, and I think we've beat the further discussion to death, so call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the history lesson.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
Moving along to the planner's report.
I'll make this quick. You remember the American State Equipment Conditional Use Grant? I understand that was to be recorded by the village clerk. So that is moving forward. So now we'll expect to get a site plan back. And then the other item on here was update dirt pile and excavator complaint from the Plan Commission for the property owned by Lake Park Homeowners Association. This came forward for discussion, and I know Trustee Monzel and Engineer Barry and I were on a conference call today about this matter. We explained the issue is too regarding so long story short, there's a berm on the property, and so as such, the village has an interest in seeing the berm taken care of, either through a permit process or its removal. And so we will be in contact with the property owner and the person who constructed the berm to see if we can get a resolution. So technically a berm does need a permit, and so now we're just gonna finalize that process over the next month or two and see what we can do.
Yeah, and we can do the same thing where like we touch base again in actually spring and say, okay, you still haven't moved the excavator, you haven't done anything to the berm, do it now or we're citing you.
So that's just an update on that.
Let me ask, there's another letter in here from Kelly Renner about, at some point Lake Park Association said put in a berm. Now they're saying take out the berm or just
So
finish
that-
the berm?
Yeah, so 2018, it appears permission was given by the homeowner association. And so the berm question now is basically they just wanted it completed. That's the issue.
We're trying to stay out of,
Yeah, it sounds like a homeowner thing. Really.
yeah, so we can just comment if it doesn't get done or the excavator's still there, then we can say, hey, you never got a permit and you're storing construction equipment on site. Both of those things are not bad.
So a permit would be a way to manage it. In other words, it does need a permit. I mean, if you're piling up dirt, building a berm, you need a permit. It doesn't matter if it's the person, the contractor doing the work or the owner. A letter will go forward and then they decide amongst themselves who's taking care of it and who pays for what, but it should get taken care of.
Outstanding.
Glad to help on that. That's all I have.
Excellent. Fire Inspector Brown's not here, so we'll skip his report. Building Inspector not here. Engineer's report.
All right, I'm gonna go lickety split. So the only two items that were not addressed on the agenda were that we had a meeting with Christ Lutheran Church about the design team, and I only mentioned that here because we did tell them that if they had another, after they just got their civil engineer, if they had another preliminary plan after we gave them our notes, that they could come to us and we could comment before they were done.
And it's preliminary at this point. Nothing's
Yeah.
been finalized, nor is anything ready to submit. They're expressing ideas or concepts with the village to say, can we do this? Or what are these ideas? What do can you comment on some of these ideas? So there's nothing really to bring forward formally yet for commission review, but it may or may not come forward.
Yeah, and they were interested in us getting a public right of way on Maple, and Public Works Director said that we're not interested in that, and we move forward. So, just so we all know. And then we'll have another lot going up in Riverbrook East. They contacted me for drainage requirements, so that will be, they're starting the process of designing that. That's all I got for you guys.
Awesome. I'm assuming no correspondence. Mr. Bennett.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Make a note, I'm gonna be gone next one.
What?
Just gonna make you a note that I will not be there.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.